The galaxy was never silent. Space was full of noise, ships moving, weapons charging, and alien empires plotting against each other. But today, there was a strange quiet across hundreds of star systems. Billions of eyes were fixed on one part, of space, where humans had just arrived. The Galactic War Council gathered inside a vast chamber on the planet Dravox Prime. It was a place where the most powerful rulers in the galaxy made decisions of life and death. Normally, these alien leaders spoke loudly, shouted orders, and argued over who controlled which star systems. But today, none of them dared to raise their voice. At the center of the chamber, a giant screen showed a single human warship moving slowly toward the combined fleet of the Valak Empire. The Valak were one of the oldest and most feared alien races. Their fleet had destroyed hundreds of worlds. Their battleships were so massive that other species surrendered before even seeing them up close. And yet, none of them felt safe now. The human ship looked small compared to the alien armada. Its hull was dark, almost black, with strange glowing lines that pulsed like veins of fire. It moved with purpose, ignoring the thousands of Valak ships waiting to crush it. Why do they? "Come alone!" hissed Emperor Zortal, leader of the Valak. His long, scaled claws tapped the table nervously. "Is this a joke? One human vessel against 1,000? Are they mocking us?" No one answered. The council had watched humans before. They knew. Humans fought differently, but they had never seen them send a lone ship to face such power. Something felt wrong. Something felt terrifying. From the far side of the chamber, High Chancellor Varix, leader of the Zoran Republic, spoke softly. "I told you. Humans never fight the way we expect. If they are here, it is not to talk. It is not to beg. It is to end something." The words sent a shiver through the council. Across the galaxy, countless alien citizens were also watching. Millions of screens showed the same image. A single human warship approaching slowly, silently. No transmissions, no warnings, just movement. The battlefield, in the cold void of space, the human ship named Resolute Dawn glided forward. Its hull reflected no light, making it look like a ghost against the backdrop of stars. The Valak fleet spread out, forming a massive wall of warships. Thousands of alien cannons locked onto the human vessel. On the command deck of the Valak flagship, Admiral Krivek growled, "Target the human ship! Fire all weapons on my mark!" His crew nodded nervously. Normally they were fearless, but something about this human ship felt wrong. Its energy signature was unlike anything they had seen before. It didn't look like a warship. It looked like a predator. Inside the Resolute Dawn, Captain Elena Kane stood calm at her command chair. Around her, her crew waited silently. They had fought alien fleets before, but this was different. This time, Earth had sent only one ship, and failure was not an option. "Status report," Kane said, her voice steady. "All systems ready, Captain," replied her tactical officer. "The Valak fleet is charging weapons, thousands of cannons, locked on us." Kane stared at the enemy formation ahead. "They expect fear," she said softly. "They expect us to run." She glanced at her crew, a small smile forming on her lips. "Let's remind them why humanity never surrenders." The galaxy holds its breath back. In the Galactic Council chamber, tension rose with every passing second. Thousands of alien races were watching through live broadcasts. Entire cities stopped functioning as people stared at giant screens in silence. Children asked questions, but parents had no answers. This was history unfolding. This was something terrifying. "Fire already!" Emperor Zortal barked. "End this foolishness. Humans cannot win." But before the Valak admiral could give the final command, something happened. the human ship slowed down to a complete stop, just outside the firing range. Its dark hull began to glow with strange blue. Symbols that no alien race recognized. The glow grew brighter, brighter, until every alien sensor across the battlefield started malfunctioning. "What is that?" one of the Valek officers cried. "It's not a weapon we know! Our scanners are blind!" Then a low hum spread across the void. A wave of energy pulsed, outward from the Resolute Dawn. It wasn't an explosion. It wasn't an attack. It was something worse. One by one, Valek shields flickered and died. Thousands of battleships, once untouchable, now lay exposed. Panic spread through their fleet. Admiral Krivek's voice broke the silence. "Impossible. No one has this technology. No one." Across the galaxy, aliens watching the broadcast gasped. Entire civilizations stared in horror as humanity revealed something completely new, something the galaxy thought was impossible. Fear takes hold on Dravox. Prime, a quiet murmur went through the council. The bravest warriors, the most ruthless, conquerors in the galaxy felt fear crawling through their veins. High Chancellor Varix whispered the thought on everyone's mind. If one human ship can do this, what happens when their entire fleet arrives? No one answered. They all felt the same cold truth. They were not the strongest anymore. Humanity had changed the rules of war. Emperor Zortal slammed his fist on the table. "This cannot be real! Humans were weak when we first met them. How did they become this?" A deep voice replied from a corner of the room, belonging to an old warlord who had fought humans a century ago. "We made them this," he said grimly. "We hunted them. We enslaved them. We thought they would vanish. Instead, we taught them how to fight monsters." The room fell silent again. No one dared speak as they watched the Resolute Dawn move forward once more, this time faster, cutting through the void like a blade through the dark. The countdown to fire. Inside the Valek, fleet alarms blared. Officers screamed for orders. Shields were dead. Panic was spreading faster than fire. Admiral Krivek's scales shimmered with sweat. "Fire everything," he roared. "Destroy it now!" Thousands of plasma beams, railguns, and missiles filled the void, rushing toward the lone human warship. It should have been enough to vaporize a planet. It should have been unstoppable. But the Resolute Dawn danced. It moved like no other ship had ever moved, twisting between enemy fire with impossible precision. Every time a missile neared, it vanished in a flash of light, destroyed by unseen defenses. On board, Captain Kane stood unshaken. "Target their command ships," she ordered. "End this quickly." Her tactical officer hesitated. "Captain, do we give them a chance to surrender?" Kane's eyes were cold as steel. "Did they give mercy to the colonies they burned? Did they spare our children?" Her voice was a whisper, but it carried across the bridge. "No. Fire. The first. Strike across the galaxy. Billions held their breath as the first human weapon fired. A single beam of white light shot from the Resolute Dawn. It was silent, almost invisible, until it struck the lead Valek battleship. In less than a heartbeat, the massive ship simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no wreckage, just nothingness where it once stood. The Valek fleet froze in disbelief. On every alien world, citizens watching felt their blood run cold. This wasn't war. This was power beyond understanding. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with horrified whispers. "They erased a battleship." "That's impossible." "What kind of monsters are humans?" The old warlord spoke again, his voice like a grave warning. "Monsters?" He shook his head slowly. "No, they are just humans. But now, they fight like gods. And as The Resolute Dawn prepared to fire again. Every alien across the galaxy realized something they had never believed before. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the new nightmare of the stars. The galaxy was still shaking from what it had just witnessed. The image of a Valak battleship vanishing in a single flash from a lone human ship burned into every alien mind. No one spoke for long moments after the Resolute Dawn fired its first shot. But fear has a way of spreading fast, and now it was racing across the stars like wildfire. On hundreds of planets, alien citizens stared at the sky as if humanity's wrath would fall on them next. Armies that had crushed countless worlds were suddenly questioning everything they knew about power. And on the battlefield itself, the Valak fleet, once the most feared in this region of space, hesitated for the first time in centuries. The human warship wasn't just strong, it was something else. Something terrifying. A fleet on edge. Inside the Valak flagship Vengeance Claw, Admiral Krivek gripped his command chair tightly. His claws left deep marks in the metal. Thousands of his ships surrounded the lone human vessel. By all logic, victory was certain. Numbers alone should crush humans easily. And yet Krivek felt a cold weight in his chest. He had seen battles before. He had fought the fiercest enemies, but never had a single ship moved like this. Never had one vessel erased a battleship as if it never existed. "Admiral," a young officer whispered nervously, breaking the tense silence. "Our fleet, they are afraid." Krivek turned, his eyes burning. "Afraid? We are the Valak Empire. We do not fear lesser species." But even as he said it, Krivek saw the truth. His crew's eyes darted constantly toward the Resolute Dawn. Their hands shook over their controls. The massive Valak armada felt like prey, waiting for a predator to strike again. The human silence. While the Valak fleet scrambled to react, the human ship did nothing. No transmissions came, no threats, no demands. The Resolute Dawn simply drifted slowly forward, its dark hull glowing faintly, cutting through the void without sound. The galaxy expected humans to speak, to explain their actions, to negotiate. But humans said nothing. And that silence was worse than any weapon. From a distant command center on a neutral alien station, countless other races watched the battle through a live feed. One alien commander leaned forward and whispered to no one in particular, "They don't talk. They don't warn. They just move and kill." Every alien in the room shuddered. Fear of humans was no longer a theory. It was a living, breathing reality playing out before their eyes. Council of Fearon Dravox Prime, the Galactic War Council, sat frozen. These were rulers who had destroyed planets, enslaved species, and decided the fate of millions without a second thought. Yet now none of them could control their trembling hands as they watched the human vessel glide toward another Valak formation. "This is madness," Emperor Zortal muttered. "We are watching the end of an empire. One ship cannot do this. It should not be possible." High Chancellor Varix answered quietly, his voice heavy with dread. "We underestimated them. For centuries we thought humans were fragile, easy to crush. But war forged them into something else." One council member, a cold-blooded alien strategist, spoke in a shaking tone. "If one ship can do this, imagine their fleets, imagine their armies. We have built our empires on fear, and now we know a fear greater than our own." No one disagreed. Inside the Resolute Dawn captain, Elena Kane stood at the command table, eyes locked on the enemy fleet. The Valak ships were regrouping, forming tighter walls of steel. She could sense their desperation. "Tactical report," Kane said calmly. "Enemy fleet is confused, Captain," her officer replied. "Shields offline across several sectors. They're moving defensively. They've stopped advancing." Kane's lips curled into a thin smile. "Good. Let them fear us. Fear makes them slower, makes them weak. The crew remained silent, their faces hard as stone. They had seen what the Valak Empire had done to human colonies. Entire cities burned, families taken, worlds enslaved. This wasn't just war. This was justice and vengeance. "Captain," another officer spoke softly. "Incoming transmission from Valak Command. They demand we surrender or face total destruction." Kane's eyes turned cold. She spoke one sentence. "Reply, no." The humans did not explain. They did not plead. They simply refused. And that refusal echoed louder than any threat could have. A storm gathering. The Valak fleet's remaining admirals argued over comms. Some wanted to retreat, claiming this battle was cursed. Others shouted to press the attack. But Admiral Krivek knew retreat meant shame for life and death under the Emperor's rule. "We attack," he growled. "But carefully. Spread out, flank them from all sides, overwhelm them." Even as he spoke, his hands shook. Something deep inside screamed at him to run. Out in the void, alien battleships moved like dark clouds, trying to circle the resolute dawn. But humans anticipated every move. The warship shifted course slowly, deliberately, placing itself just where enemy fire would be weakest. It was like watching a predator herd frightened prey. Across the galaxy, millions of alien citizens couldn't stop watching the live broadcast. Entire cities had gone silent. No music played, no markets opened, just screens showing one human ship facing thousands. Children asked their parents, "Who are humans?" And parents had no answer but fear. Old veterans of other wars whispered to each other in disbelief. "We fought them once," one said. "They were brave but weak. Now look at them. Now they are something else." A chilling thought spread through every star system. If this is just one ship, what happens when Earth sends them all? The waiting game back in the resolute dawn, Kane waited patiently. Her crew knew she could fire again, wiping out another Valak battleship in seconds. But she didn't. She let the silence stretch longer. She let fear sink deeper into the enemy's hearts. Finally, her first officer spoke. "Captain, why wait?" Kane's gaze was fixed on the enemy formation. "Because," she said slowly, "fear is a weapon too. Every second they hesitate, every second they doubt. We win without firing." It was true. The Valak fleet had stopped advancing. Ships wavered in formation. Some captains even pulled back slightly, unable to get closer to the human warship. This wasn't a battle anymore. It was a hunt, and every alien could feel who the hunter was. The second shot. When the moment was right, Kane gave a single order. "Target their command cruiser, fire." A beam of pure white energy lanced across space. The Valak command cruiser, massive and heavily armored, dissolved in silence just like the first ship. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. The Valak fleet broke. Thousands of alien ships scattered, fleeing in panic. The once mighty Valak Empire had just tasted true fear. Across the galaxy, the council chamber fell silent as a grave. Everyone understood what they had just seen. It wasn't just a battle. It was a warning. Humanity didn't need words to send their message. The message without words as the resolute dawn drifted among the wreckage. A single transmission echoed across every channel in the region. 4 words, spoken in a calm, chilling human voice. "This is only the start." Billions heard it. Billions froze, and from that moment on, no one in the galaxy would ever look at humans the same way again. Space was quiet. Too quiet. The battlefield that had once been filled with the thunder of alien weapons was now silent, broken only by drifting pieces of destroyed Valak ships. Billions of eyes across the galaxy were still glued to their screens, waiting to see what the humans would do next. The resolute Dawn floated among the wreckage like a shadow, moving slowly, calmly, as if it had all the time in the universe. The Valak fleet had retreated far back, terrified to face it again. But everyone knew this wasn't over. Humanity wasn't here to scare their enemies. Humanity was here to end the war, and to show the galaxy a kind of weapon no one had ever seen before. A galaxy on edge on Dravox Prime, inside the Galactic War Council chamber, the atmosphere was suffocating. Leaders of empires that had ruled the stars for thousands of years sat frozen, their faces pale. None of them spoke for long. Moments after the second Valak command ship vanished without a trace. Finally, Emperor Zortal slammed a clawed fist against the table. "Enough! This is trickery! Humans cannot simply erase our ships. No weapon can do that." But no one believed him, not even his own advisors. Every alien ruler had just watched it happen with their own eyes. Twice. No explosion, no debris, just nothing left of ships that were supposed to be indestructible. High Chancellor Varix leaned forward, his voice quiet but sharp. "You wanted to see how far humans have come? This is only the beginning. If they can erase ships, they can erase worlds." The chamber fell into terrified silence. Inside the resolute Dawn captain, Elena Kane stood on the command deck, watching the distant enemy fleet retreat. Her crew worked silently, but tension was thick in the air. Everyone knew what came next. "Status?" Kane asked, her voice calm but carrying authority. "All systems are stable," her tactical officer replied. "The Valak fleet is regrouping, beyond range. They're scared, Captain, but they'll come back. They always do." Kane nodded slowly. "Then it's time to show them what they fear the most." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They knew what she meant. Humanity had developed weapons in secret, technology born from desperation and centuries of suffering under alien empires. Weapons no other species believed were real, and now, for the first time, the galaxy would see them in action. The return of the Valak, despite their fear, the Valak Empire couldn't retreat forever. The Emperor had ordered Admiral Kryvek to destroy the human ship or die trying. And so, the fleet came back, larger this time, reinforced by more warships jumping in from distant sectors. From the bridge of the resolute Dawn, Kane watched the enemy fleet form a wall of firepower ahead. Thousands of ships locked weapons on them, but she didn't flinch. "They're scared," she said softly, "but they think numbers will save them." She looked to her crew. "Numbers mean nothing against what we carry." The weapon. Awakens deep in the lower decks of the human ship, engineers worked in silence. A huge, sealed chamber glowed with a strange energy, as if a small sun was trapped inside. The weapon was unlike anything else in the galaxy. Not a missile, not a beam cannon, not even a nuclear bomb. This was pure energy manipulation, technology, stolen from ancient alien archives and perfected by human scientists. The humans called it the Void Lance. It didn't just destroy. It erased matter itself, pulling it out of existence. No shield could block it. No armor could resist it. No known physics could explain it. Back on the command deck, Kane gave the order. "Arm the Void Lance." A low hum filled the ship as energy gathered, vibrating through every wall and console. The crew stayed silent, gripping their seats, knowing what was about to happen would change the galaxy forever. The galaxy watches? Every alien civilization tuned into the live feed. They had seen humans fire before, but this felt different. Even across vast distances, sensors picked up unnatural energy building in the human vessel. It wasn't just a weapon. It felt like a storm tearing reality itself apart. On Dravox, Prime Council members stared at their displays in horror. "What are they doing?" one asked, voice trembling. Varix's answer was a whisper that chilled everyone to the bone. "They're about to show us why you should never push humans into a corner." The final warning. A single message came from the Resolute Dawn, broadcast to the Valak fleet and every listening ear in the galaxy. It was Captain Kane's voice, cold and calm. You brought war to our worlds. You took our people. You thought we would break. You were wrong. Leave now, or witness what humanity truly is. For a moment, the Valak admirals hesitated. Retreat would mean disgrace, execution by their emperor. Staying might mean death. Finally, they chose war, and that sealed their fate. The void opens. The Resolute Dawn fired. But this time it wasn't a beam of light. It wasn't even visible at first. Space itself seemed to twist, rippling like water. Then a jagged tear of glowing white energy lanced outward, cutting through the void. Every Valak ship in its path vanished instantly, hundreds at once, erased as if they had never existed. No sound, no debris, just empty space where a massive fleet had stood seconds before. Billions of aliens watching the broadcast screamed, cried, or froze in terror. Entire planets fell silent. The galaxy had just seen a weapon that broke every law of nature they knew. It wasn't just power. It was something beyond power. The Aftermath Admiral Krivek sat frozen in his command chair, his eyes wide, his breath shaking. Half his fleet was gone, not destroyed, not damaged, gone. "We can't fight this," his first officer whispered, panic filling his voice. "No one can fight this." And Krivek finally understood. The Valak Empire wasn't the apex predator anymore. Humans had become something greater, something unstoppable. Across the galaxy, the War Council chamber was silent as death. Leaders who had once mocked humanity now stared at their hands, realizing that one day it could be their worlds disappearing like this. High Chancellor Varric spoke the words everyone was thinking. If humans can erase fleets, nothing can stop them from erasing empires. The human silence returns. After the attack, the Resolute Dawn didn't chase the fleeing Valak ships. It simply drifted forward, unharmed, unstoppable. No threats followed, no more words. Humanity had spoken once, and their weapon had spoken louder than anything else ever could. Billions of aliens stared at the quiet, deadly warship on their screens, and a single thought spread across the stars like a virus. What happens when Earth sends more of these? Space was quiet again, but this time it wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that comes before a storm so powerful it could burn the stars themselves. The Resolute Dawn floated in the void like a phantom, drifting slowly toward the retreating Valak fleet. Its black hull glowed faintly, with strange, living energy, a terrifying reminder of what had just happened. Hundreds of Valak ships had been erased from existence in seconds. But even after witnessing such destruction, the galaxy didn't yet understand the truth. The Resolute Dawn was only the beginning. Humanity's full wrath had not yet arrived, and soon the entire sky would burn. Panic across the stars on. Every alien world, news networks replayed the same horrifying footage, a single human ship erasing fleets without effort. Civilizations that had once mocked humanity now trembled, whispering prayers to their gods for protection. In the Galactic War Council chamber on Dravox Prime, leaders shouted in chaos, "This cannot be allowed to continue." Emperor Zortal roared, slamming his claws into the table. "Humans cannot have this kind of power. If they send more ships, we are all finished." High Chancellor Varric turned to him, his voice sharp as a blade. "Then you should not have started a war with them." The council fell silent. No one wanted to admit the truth. They had all supported Valak's attack on Earth. They had believed humanity was weak. And now every empire feared they had awakened something they couldn't stop. One council member whispered, his voice shaking, "If one human warship can do this, What will happen when their entire fleet arrives? No one had an answer, but everyone felt the same dread clawing at their hearts. A call from Earth on board the Resolute Dawn. Captain Elena Kane stood on the command deck as a secure transmission came in from Earth. The screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Hayes, commander of the United Terran Fleet. His face was hard, his voice steady. "Captain Kane," he said, "you have done well. The galaxy has seen what one human warship can do. Now, they will see what many can do." The bridge crew stared in silence as Kane asked, "Admiral, is it time?" Hayes nodded once. "It's time. We are jumping. In with the fleet. Hold position and mark the enemy coordinates." The transmission ended. The crew exchanged looks of both relief and fear. Humanity had more ships. Hundreds of them. Ships that made the Resolute Dawn look small. And they were coming. The Valak's last hope Admiral Krivek paced his flagship, his face pale. Half his fleet was gone. The rest were terrified and desperate to flee. But the Emperor's orders were clear: fight or die. "We still outnumber them," one officer said shakily. "If we strike now, maybe we can destroy their ship." Krivek shook his head. "You don't understand. That human ship is not alone. If one can do this, imagine what an entire fleet will do." The officer swallowed hard, realizing the truth too late. The Valak Empire had started a war they could never win. The sky changes. Moments later, sensors across the battlefield went wild. Space itself seemed to ripple and twist as massive jump signatures appeared all around the Valak fleet. And then they arrived. One by one, enormous human warships tore out of hyperspace, their black hulls gleaming like blades in the starlight. Each ship dwarfed the Valak battleships. They were silent, no lights, no signals, just an unstoppable wall of death moving into formation. Across the galaxy, aliens watching the live broadcast went pale. The void was filling with human warships, hundreds of them, thousands. The stars were vanishing behind black metal giants. For the first time in galactic history, every living being watching felt the same emotion: pure, raw fear. The first salvo Captain Kane stood on her bridge as the fleet joined her, the Resolute Dawn now surrounded by humanity's full force. Admiral Hayes's voice echoed over the comms. "This is Admiral Hayes of the United Terran Fleet," he said, his tone calm, but heavy with finality. "Valak Empire, you have brought war to our homes. You have burned our colonies. You have taken our people. Today, humanity answers." The Valak admirals screamed orders, preparing to fire everything they had. Thousands of weapons lit up across their fleet. But it was too late. "Fire," Hayes commanded. The human fleet unleashed hell. Beams of white energy and bursts of impossible power tore through space. Valak ships exploded, vanished, or were sliced apart like paper. Whole formations disappeared. In seconds, the void filled with blinding light and roaring destruction. From distant worlds, it looked as if a second sun had appeared in the sky. Alien citizens watching live feeds whispered in terror. "The humans are burning the stars." The Valak collapse Admiral Krivek stared at his screens in horror. Ship after ship was gone, wiped from existence before they could fire a shot. His officers screamed for orders, but there was nothing left to command. "This isn't war," Krivek muttered, his voice broken. "This is extinction." All around, Valak captains fled, abandoning the Emperor's orders, desperate to escape. But the human fleet was everywhere. There was no escape. The galaxy's most feared empire was crumbling in minutes. The sky burns. Red flames and explosions painted the void. Pieces of Valak ships, glowing red and burning, drifted like meteors through space. The once black sky was now lit by fire and death. From every corner of the galaxy, aliens watched in silence as humanity's fleet moved like a single unstoppable force, erasing everything in its path. There was no negotiation, no mercy, no weakness. The galaxy had seen war before, but never like this, never so fast, never so absolute. One alien commentator on a live broadcast whispered the words that would spread across star systems. The sky burns red, and humanity has become the fire. The war was over, but the galaxy didn't feel safe. Space was silent again, yet every star system seemed to hold its breath. The Valak Empire's once mighty fleet had been erased, their most feared warships turned to dust and ash. But what terrified the galaxy most was not the destruction itself. It was the fact that humans had barely tried. The full fleet had fired only a fraction of their weapons, and yet an empire that had ruled for thousands of years was gone in minutes. Now, everyone waited. Billions of aliens stared at their screens, terrified of what humanity would say next. Because when humans spoke after a war like this, everyone would listen. The battlefield of ghosts. The battlefield where the Valak fleet once stood was now empty space scattered with burning debris and silent wreckage. The United Terran fleet hovered among the ruins, black ships aligned in perfect formation. On the resolute dawn, Captain Elena Kane stood by the main viewport. She stared at the destruction with no joy, no satisfaction, only cold purpose. "Admiral Hayes," she said over comms, "Valak forces have been wiped out. No survivors detected." Hayes's voice came back, calm as ever. "Then we send the message." The bridge crew fell silent. They knew this wasn't just about the Valak anymore. This was for every alien race watching, every empire that had thought humanity was weak across. The galaxy on Dravox Prime, the Galactic War Council waited in terrified silence. The leaders of powerful alien empires sat in a grand chamber filled with screens, waiting to hear what humans had to say. Some of them still hated Earth. Others wanted to pretend the war had never happened. But all of them were afraid. If the humans chose to target another empire next, there was nothing anyone could do to stop them. One council member whispered what everyone was thinking. "If humans speak now, their words will shape the galaxy, forever." The transmission begins. Moments later, every screen in the galaxy flickered. Civilizations stopped moving. Markets went quiet. Armies froze. From the smallest moon outpost to the richest capital world, every signal was replaced by one image, the black and silver emblem of Earth. Then a human voice began to speak, calm, steady. Each word felt heavy, like it carried the weight of entire worlds. "This is Admiral Hayes of the United Terran Fleet," the voice said. "To all who hear this message, we did not start this war. We did not want bloodshed, but you brought it to us. You burned our colonies. You killed our children. You thought humanity would kneel." The entire galaxy listened in silence. No one dared to breathe. Hayes's voice grew colder. "You mistook our kindness for weakness. You mistook our silence for fear. You thought we would break. But humanity does not break." Across alien cities, civilians stared at the message with wide, terrified eyes. They could feel the truth in those words. The promise of Fire Admiral Hayes continued, his voice like iron. "We are not conquerors. We are not tyrants. We do not seek to rule this galaxy. But know this, if you bring war to our worlds again, if you harm one more human life." The transmission paused for a heartbeat. The galaxy waited, frozen. "We will return," Hayes said, his voice a cold whisper. "And we will burn your stars from the sky." The words echoed across billions of screens, drilling into the hearts of every living being. It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise, a truth no one could deny. The galaxy reacts on Dravox Prime. The council chamber was silent. No one dared to speak. The rulers who had once mocked humans now stared at their claws, their hands, their trembling fingers. Emperor Zortal, who had led the call for war against Earth, sat pale and shaking. The Valak Empire's might had been their pride. Now it was gone, erased in moments. His empire was nothing. His power meant nothing. High Chancellor Varix finally spoke, his voice low and grim. We brought this on ourselves. And now, every empire in the galaxy knows. No one crosses Earth and survives. Across alien worlds, fear turned into something else, obedience. Leaders rushed to send messages of surrender and apology to Earth, begging for peace before humanity's wrath turned on them. But humanity didn't answer. The silence that followed was louder than any explosion. It left the galaxy wondering, was Earth satisfied or simply waiting? Inside the human fleet on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, Captain Kane listened to the last echo of the transmission before turning to Admiral Hayes's image on the comm screen. It's done, she said. The message is everywhere. Hayes nodded. Good. Let them think on it. Let them understand what we are now. Kane's tactical officer spoke quietly. Sir, what if they don't listen? What if another empire tries this again? Hayes's expression hardened. Then we remind them, he said, that there are things worse than death. And humanity has learned every one of them. The fleet remained in position for hours, silent and unmoving, like a wall of judgment hanging in the void. Every alien watching understood the message even without words. Humanity had woken up, and they would never be prey again. Whispers in the dark far across the galaxy. In hidden corners of space, alien warlords and tyrants spoke in hushed tones. Some cursed the Valak for provoking Earth. Others swore they would never make the same mistake. Rumors began to spread. Stories of secret human ships larger than moons, weapons capable of splitting stars, armies that never surrendered. Whether these were true or not didn't matter. The galaxy believed them. Fear of Earth had become the new law of the stars. The galaxy had always been loud. Empires fought, armies marched, and rulers argued about who deserved to control the stars. But after Earth's message, after the destruction of the Valak Empire's greatest fleet, the galaxy went silent. It was not peace. It was fear. Billions of aliens whispered in dread. The name humanity had become a shadow stretching across every planet, every station, every throne room. No one was safe from the thought that one day human warships might appear in their skies, and if they did, there would be no escape. And fear, once planted, grew fast. Panic on alien worlds on. The planet Zythera, a bustling trade world, alien citizens filled the streets in chaos. Shops closed, banks locked their vaults, and leaders declared martial law. Rumors raced like wildfire. Humans are building fleets that can erase planets. They're coming to punish every empire that ever hurt them. Earth will burn, the stars to make the galaxy kneel. Families packed their belongings and fled to distant colonies, hoping to hide far from human eyes. Smugglers sold false safe routes away from human-controlled space. Priests of a dozen alien religions preached that humanity was the final judgment sent by the universe itself. The galaxy had seen wars before, but never fear like this. This was different. This was primal. The collapse of the Valak Empire. In the once mighty Valak Empire, chaos reigned. Their emperor had vanished. Their fleets were gone. Their warlords turned on each other like starving beasts. Admiral Krivek, one of the few surviving commanders from the battle, broadcast a desperate message to all Valak systems. Do not attack humans again. Flee, hide, surrender if you must, but do not face them. We are not their equals. We are prey to them now. But it was too late. Valak colonies rebelled. Citizens refused orders, and old enemies rose to finish what humanity had started. The empire that once ruled through terror was now drowning in its own. The War Council, fractures on Dravox Prime, the Galactic War Council, gathered again, but the Great Chamber no longer echoed with arrogance or threats. Instead, it was filled with fear and blame. "This is your fault," one alien ruler screamed at Emperor Zortal. "You pushed for war with humans." "They were supposed to be weak," Zortal snapped back, his eyes wild. "No species could rise so fast." High Chancellor Varric spoke over them all, his voice like a knife in the tense room. "We treated humanity as prey. We hunted them. And now the hunters have found teeth sharper than ours." "Then we must unite," shouted another council member. "We must build weapons stronger than theirs before they come for us." Varric turned slowly to face him. "Did you not watch what they did to the Valak fleet? There is no weapon stronger than theirs. We are ants before a firestorm." The chamber fell silent, despair spreading like a disease. For the first time in galactic history, the War Council felt powerless. Human silence, greater than fear in orbit. Over the ruined Valak sector, the United Terran fleet waited. They didn't move toward alien capitals. They didn't demand tribute or control of worlds. They simply stood, watching, waiting. This silence was worse than war. On every alien screen, humans became an unstoppable, unknown force. If Earth had attacked next, it might have been easier for empires to plan. But humanity stayed still. Their silence whispered one terrifying truth. They can strike again whenever they choose. Desperate plans in the shadows. Some alien rulers couldn't accept. Living under fear. Secret meetings were held in the dark corners of space. Warlords, smugglers, and surviving Valak leaders plotted together. "We cannot wait for humans to kill us next," one said. "We must strike first." Another laughed bitterly. "Strike how? You saw their weapons. We throw stones. They throw suns." But one alien whispered an idea that made even the bravest shudder. "There is only one hope. We must find what they fear. We must uncover a weakness before they erase all our empires." The others listened, desperate. A plan began to form, not to defeat humanity, but to survive them. Alien propaganda. To calm their terrified citizens, some empires started spreading false hope. Humans are bluffing. Their weapons cannot destroy planets. Their fleet is powerful but small. They cannot fight everyone at once. But lies did not stop the fear. Every alien child had seen the Valak fleet vanish. Every adult had watched stars burn red. No speech could erase that memory. The galaxy knew the truth. If Earth decided another empire was guilty, that empire would not see another sunrise. Inside the human fleet on board the Resolute Dawn, Captain Kane sat with Admiral Hayes in a private comms link. "Word from Earth," Hayes said quietly. "We hold position for now. The galaxy is already changing. Fear is doing the work for us." Kane frowned. "So we're not striking again?" "Not yet," Hayes replied. "Let them think. Let them wonder when we'll move. Fear is the best shield humanity has ever had." Kane leaned back, staring at the distant stars. She thought of the burned colonies, the millions of humans lost to alien raids in past centuries. A part of her wanted revenge on every empire that had ever hurt Earth. But another part knew the Admiral was right. Right now, the galaxy was terrified enough to never touch Earth again. Maybe that was enough. Whispers across the stars' weeks passed, but the fear did not fade. In cantinas, alien mercenaries refused contracts to fight humans. Pirate kings changed their hunting routes to avoid Terran space. Even the most violent empires sent secret ambassadors to Earth, begging for peace, swearing they would never harm humans again. And every time they sent a message, there was no reply. Earth stayed silent. The black warships in orbit over Valak space stayed in formation, and the galaxy stayed afraid. A galaxy changed forever. For thousands of years, alien empires had ruled by fear. They had enslaved weaker races, conquered worlds, and burned cities without hesitation. But now, a new kind of fear ruled the stars. The fear of a species that had once been hunted, but had risen higher than anyone imagined. A species that had learned to fight wars without mercy. A species that could erase entire fleets with a thought. Every alien ruler, every soldier, every citizen understood one thing now. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was the one thing in the galaxy no one dared to provoke again. The galaxy was broken. Empires that once ruled with iron claws now lived in fear. The name humanity had become a shadow spreading across every star system, making even the strongest rulers tremble. But fear does strange things. It makes most hide. It makes some surrender. And sometimes, it makes a few dangerous enough to try the impossible. In a secret corner of the galaxy, far from human sensors, an alliance was being born. A desperate alliance. One last stand against the unstoppable power of Earth. A council in the dark inside an abandoned asteroid station. Warlords, admirals, and exiled rulers gathered in secret. The room smelled of fear, but also defiance. Holograms of alien faces flickered above the war table, their eyes sharp and desperate. The meeting began with a harsh voice. "If we do nothing," growled Trovak the Conqueror, a reptilian warlord. With scarred scales, the humans will one day decide we are a threat and erase us, just like they erased Valak. An insectoid admiral clicked his mandibles nervously. "We cannot face them directly. No fleet in the galaxy can match theirs. No shield can stop their weapons." "Then we don't fight them head-on," another alien said. "We find their weakness. Every predator has one." The room buzzed with doubt. Some claimed humans had no weakness. Others believed they had found one, a rumor that had begun spreading through the darker corners of space. "They say the Terran fleet is powered by a single massive energy core," whispered a cloaked figure. "If we can overload it, if we can strike their heart, the humans will fall." It wasn't much of a plan. It was mostly hope, mixed with desperation. But hope was all they had left. And so, the alliance was formed. The galaxy's bravest, or most foolish, prepared for a final strike. The human fleet, waiting far away. The United Terran fleet remained in position above the ruins of Valak space. Weeks had passed, but the black warships stayed silent, unmoving, watching. On the resolute dawn, Captain Elena Kane stared at the stars. "It's too quiet," she murmured to her first officer. "Maybe the galaxy has finally learned," the officer replied, but Kane didn't believe that. She knew war too well. Fear made enemies hide, yes, but fear also made them desperate. She could feel it. A storm was coming. The alliance moves. The desperate alliance gathered what remained of their fleets. Old warships were pulled from forgotten scrapyards. Weapons never meant to be used again were reactivated. Smugglers and mercenaries were paid fortunes to join what everyone called the last stand. They knew they couldn't defeat humanity. But they wanted one thing: to show the galaxy that humans were not gods, that they could bleed, that they could be stopped. "Even if we die," Trovak growled before the attack, "if we strike them once, if we make them fear, the galaxy will rise against them." It was madness. But sometimes madness feels like courage when you have nothing left to lose. The trap, the Alliance lured a small part of the Terran fleet into an ambush. They leaked false intelligence about a hidden Valak survivor colony under attack. Humanity, unwilling to risk leaving innocents behind, sent a rescue force of 20 warships. Hidden in a dark nebula, the Alliance waited with over 500. Alien ships, massive energy bombs, and stolen experimental weapons. When the human ships arrived, the trap closed. Mines exploded, alien fleets poured in from all sides, energy storms ripped through space. The void turned into fire and chaos. For the first time in the war, humanity faced a storm of such scale, it threatened to swallow even their most advanced ships. The battle begins. On the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, alarms blared. Kane stood tall. "Unshaken! Ambush confirmed!" her officer shouted. 500 enemy ships closing in! Energy surges detected! Weapons unknown! Kane's eyes hardened. She understood what this was. Not a battle. A desperate gamble. "They want to prove we can bleed," she muttered. "Let's show them what happens when you corner humanity." The humans fought hard. Their weapons tore through enemy ships, erasing dozens in seconds. But the Alliance kept coming, throwing everything they had, willing to die if it meant cracking humanity's shield of fear. Explosions lit the nebula. Alien fleets screamed forward like a tidal wave. Even the Terran warships, invincible in every other battle, struggled against the sheer numbers and chaos. The price of desperation, in the heart of the battle, the Alliance launched their final weapon, a massive energy bomb designed to overload the Terran fleet's power cores. It tore through space, leaving a trail of burning light. "Impact in 20 seconds!" shouted Kane's tactical officer. The human fleet couldn't outrun it, couldn't dodge it. It was the first weapon capable of harming them, and the entire galaxy was watching this desperate fight, hoping humanity would finally fall. Humanity's answer. But humans don't just fight with weapons. They fight with will. Admiral Hayes's voice cut through the comms. "All ships form shield formation around the bomb. Redirect energy to containment fields. Do not let this thing detonate." 20 warships moved as one, placing themselves between the bomb and the fleet. Their hulls burned, systems overloaded, but they held. Then Kane gave the final order. "Fire the Void Lance!" Space ripped open. The bomb and the alien fleet surrounding it vanished in white light. The nebula fell silent except for the sound of dying ships. Human warships floated among the wreckage, battered but alive. They had not fallen. The Alliance's last hope had failed. The galaxy watches in dread. Every alien broadcast showed the same thing. The largest force ever assembled against humanity, erased. The desperate Alliance's bravery ended in smoke and silence. There would be no rebellion, no uprising, no second chance. The galaxy now understood the full truth. Even when you throw everything at them, humans do not lose. The aftermath back in the asteroid station where the Alliance had formed, news of the defeat spread fast. Those who had not joined the attack fell to their knees in despair. Some swore never to speak humanity's name again. Others fled to the farthest edges of known space, hoping distance might protect them from inevitable human wrath. But humanity did not chase them. The Terran fleet returned to position, silent and waiting. That silence was more terrifying than any weapon. The galaxy now knew humans didn't need to roar to inspire fear. They only had to exist. The stars had never been so quiet. Entire empires that once ruled the galaxy with fire and steel now lived under a new shadow, the shadow of humanity. The Valak Empire was gone. The desperate alliance had been erased. Every attempt to challenge. Earth had ended the same way, in silence and ash. Now the galaxy faced a single truth. There was no army strong enough, no weapon powerful enough, no leader brave enough to stand against humans. One by one, empires knelt, not out of respect, but out of pure, raw fear. The first kneeling began with the minor empires. Worlds on the edge of Terran space sent messages of surrender, promising, never to raise a hand against humanity again. They offered trade, resources, anything to prove they were no threat. Then, larger powers followed. The Dravari kingdom, known for enslaving other species, sent a desperate plea for forgiveness, freeing every prisoner they held just to show goodwill toward Earth. On every channel, alien leaders spoke words the galaxy had never heard before. We bow to humanity. We beg for peace. The War Council's final meeting on Dravox Prime, the Galactic War Council, gathered one last time. The mighty chamber that had once echoed with laughter at humanity's expense now felt like a tomb. Emperor Zortal, who had first demanded war against Earth, sat hunched and broken. His empire had lost fleets, colonies, respect. High Chancellor Varric stood, his voice heavy. "The age of alien dominance is over," he said. "We have only two choices. Live under human mercy, or wait for human wrath." No one argued. For the first time in history, every empire agreed. They would kneel to humanity, not as rulers of the stars, but as survivors begging to keep their worlds alive. The approach of the Terran fleet. The united Terran fleet moved slowly toward the galactic center. Hundreds of black warships cut through the void, silent and unstoppable. Entire systems shut down defenses and opened their channels in surrender before the humans even arrived. On board the Resolute Dawn, Captain Elena Kane stood on the command deck beside Admiral Hayes. "They're surrendering without a fight," she said quietly. Hayes nodded. "Good. The galaxy needed to learn. Now they understand." "But what if they forget?" Kane asked, her voice low. Hayes's eyes were cold as steel. "Then we remind them." The final broadcast. When the fleet reached the Council's homeworld, every alien ruler stood in a grand hall, waiting, trembling. Holograms of the united Terran fleet filled the skies above their planet. A single message was broadcast to every living being in the galaxy. Admiral Hayes's face appeared, calm, unreadable. "We did not come to rule," he said slowly, his voice echoing through billions of speakers. "We did not come to destroy your worlds, but you brought war to ours. You slaughtered our people. You thought we would kneel." He paused, his eyes hard as stone. "Humanity kneels to no one." The chamber was silent, every alien ruler bowing their heads. None dared look up. Hayes's voice grew colder. "If you ever touch Earth again, if you ever take another human life," his tone dropped to a whisper that made entire planets shiver. "We will not stop at your fleets. We will not stop at your armies. We will erase your empires. We will burn your stars to cinders." The broadcast ended. The silence that followed was more powerful than any weapon humanity had fired. The galaxy understood. There would never be a second war against Earth. The new law of the stars. From that day forward, a single unspoken law ruled the galaxy. No one harms humanity. Pirate lords vanished from Terran space. Slave empires freed human. Captives and never touched another. Even the most violent alien species gave Earth a wide berth, knowing death would follow if they did not. The galaxy changed forever, not because humans conquered it, but because humans had proven what no one believed: the smallest prey can become the fiercest predator, and once awakened, it never sleeps again. The fleet returns. Home weeks later, the united Terran fleet turned toward Earth. Billions of humans lined their cities, watching the skies as their protectors came home. The Resolute Dawn docked in orbit, its black hull still scarred from battle. Captain Kane stood on the bridge, looking down at the blue planet below. "They thought we were weak," she whispered. "Now the galaxy knows what it means to strike at humanity." Admiral Hayes placed a hand on her shoulder. "Let's hope they never need another reminder." But deep inside, they both knew the truth. Somewhere out in the stars, fear would fade. Greed would rise again. And one day someone would make the same mistake. And when that day came, humanity would be ready. The galaxy watches the skies. For centuries to come, alien children grew up hearing the same bedtime warning whispered in the dark. Never anger the humans. They do not forgive. They do not forget. And if you bring war to their worlds, the sky will burn red, and you will never see another dawn. And somewhere, drifting in the endless night, Black Terran warships waited, silent and patient, guardians of a promise that echoed forever across the stars. Earth kneels. To no one. The galaxy believed peace had returned under humanity's shadow. No empire dared raise a weapon against Earth again. For centuries, Terran warships patrolled the stars like silent guardians, feared by all. But then, the silence changed. Deep, in uncharted space, far beyond known maps, a Terran exploration ship sent a single panicked message before vanishing. We found something. It's not human. It's older. And it's watching us. And then, nothing. Alien empires that once feared humanity began whispering in terror once more. Something had survived from before even their oldest histories. Something that did not kneel to humans, or anyone. When the first wrecked Terran dreadnought drifted back into known space, torn apart by unknown weapons, humanity understood one thing. The galaxy's true predator had just awakened.